Welcome to the Divine Gossip Podcast. I'm your host, Mackenzie Foster, a professional psychic medium, tarot reader, and spiritual mentor, here to provide you with the next steps towards your dream reality, along with clarity and deep validation while on your spiritual journey. I have an immense passion for all things paranormal, spiritual, and of course, having some super fun chats with incredibly knowledgeable people. In each episode, we will expand our minds, ignite our inner psychics, embrace our spiritual awakening journeys, and live a super grounded, witchy life. I hope you learned something new in today's episode. Hello, and welcome back to the Divine Gossip Podcast. I'm your host, Mackenzie Foster, as you probably heard in the intro. Today is going to be a quick episode because I'm talking about something that I just know off the top of my head. It's not something I want to ramble about because I could honestly talk about this for like fucking 8 hours. So, and also I have a whole course on it, which I will get into, obviously. But we're talking about one of my favorite topics, which is the spiritual awakening. What the hell that is, my spiritual awakening, what it's actually like. That's mostly what we're going to get into today. As you can see by the title, spiritual awakenings are not always pretty. They truly are not. They can be pretty. They have pretty moments. But we're going to get into the real nitty gritty details of the spiritual awakening and what it truly, deeply feels like below the surface, the real raw outlook on the spiritual awakening, and not just crystals and pretty tarot cards and like loving nature and like, yeah, we love all that stuff. But we're talking existential crisis, ego death, identity shifting type stuff, because that's a real spiritual awakening. Because when you're awake and there's no going back. Someone's podcast I listened to, he was saying that when you're aware, there's no going back. You can't just become like unaware. You can't forget about it. You know what you know now, and you can't go back. And that's kind of what I feel like a spiritual awakening is. A lot of this may sound pretty intense, and it may feel intense too, of course, because it is intense. We're talking about life and death here. We're talking about why we're here, our purpose on this planet, being a soul in a human body. All of that stuff is existential and intense and can be heavy sometimes. So, yeah, take what resonates, leave what doesn't. I'm obviously going to be speaking throughout this whole episode of my personal opinions and my personal experiences. So, yeah, let's get into it. Some updates first. Maybe you can tell, maybe you can't, but I'm a little sleepy. I had a long day, but I do have more yap in me that I need to get out. So I was like, I'm not going to push recording the podcast out, recording the podcast off until the morning. I want to yap about this. And I may seem more chill. That's because I feel more chill. I feel very chill today. I feel very like, I don't know. I released a lot of emotions today. It's winter where I am. And when you're listening to this, it may not be winter, but right now when I'm recording this, it's winter. And I never been a girl that gets winter depression, winter blues, but I'm kind of feeling it this winter, which is interesting for me. I think not to go off on too much of a tangent, I'll make this quick. But anyway, that's what I've been dealing with is some heaviness and emotional stuff around depression and anxiety, but I'm okay. I'm working through it. I have amazing people around me. And it's just some down days, some mood swings and all that. And it's weird that it's winter's affecting me this way because I haven't been outside in like a long time. I haven't been in the sun in a long time, and I'm noticing that's affecting my health. So we're gonna fix that starting tomorrow. But um I always loved summer more. Winter more, because this is kind of fucking sad, but I'm being really real. I had a lot of body image issues growing up, And when summer rolled around, I knew I would kind of have to show more of my body because I would have to wear less clothes, like shorts and tank tops and swimsuits. And in the winter, I can kind of I was able to hide myself in like big clothes and stuff like that. And now that I'm actually like loving my body anymore, what? Now that I'm actually loving my body and like loving myself more, it's kind of sad that there's less activity for me to get out there in the world and show off the personality and the body I love nowadays. So I think that's getting me a little bit down, but I'm okay. But that's why I feel so chill today is like I released a lot of emotion. I took care of myself very well today. I listened to my body when I need to. And speaking of that, I just posted in the Discord. It's Monday when I'm recording this. And every morning, every Monday in the Enchanted Portal Discord, I um, do like a little voice memo or sometimes a card pull or sometimes a written message as like a Monday motivation thing for the members in there. And I just talked about in there how the small wins on your journey are super, super important. And I talked about the winter depression blues I'm feeling and what I did today to kind of help myself out of that and how listening to my body today was a really big win. So anyway, yeah, if you want to join that Discord to kind of get more spiritual guidance from me on a more personal basis, um, definitely join that. The link will be in the episode notes. That's kind of all the personal updates I want to share. It's been a week since I recorded the last episode, so not much changing, not any huge changes, just getting back in the groove of things after being kind of down and out. Not that I wasn't working, but I just, yeah, my energy is coming back. So, yeah, that's what's happening with me. I hope y'all are doing well. Let me know, reach out. But yes, thank you for being here. And I'm very excited about this topic because I'm such a philosophical person. I love getting deep into thought. I love having deep conversations and communicating about how I feel and learning about other things and seeing different other people and other things and seeing different perspectives. And I really feel like that's why I was drawn to spirituality in the first place. So if you don't know my story, in 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic, I think we all remember her. Um, Actually, what it was specifically is quarantine started. I was stuck in my dad's house with COVID. I actually got COVID 3 times. Not because I was being irresponsible, because the people around me were being irresponsible. I'm not going to name names, but I got sick from other people and it sucked ass. But anyway, yeah, I got sick. I was just in quarantine. COVID never really hit me that hard, which I'm grateful for, but I was alone and bored, and TikTok was available. And that's when I downloaded it. Well, I had TikTok downloaded my whole life, even when it was Musically. Hey, shout out to my Musically OGs. But I re-downloaded TikTok, not re-downloaded, but got into TikTok more. Louis, can you stop that, please? Thank you. My cat's sitting on the bed and he was jiggling his collar because he was scratching. So if you hear Louie in the back, that's why. But yes, I got back into TikTok in 2020, and that was like when tarot readers were getting so popular on there. Like collective tarot readings were popping up on my For You page, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, why didn't anyone tell me there was a tool where I can tap into witchy magic hippie shit, but also communicate and help people with it? What? Why didn't anyone tell me this? Like my family we never grew up religious. I went to church once. Horrible experience. Horrible. I was put in the child daycare section while my mom and her ex-husband were in the like church adult section. And I just cried the whole time. I was like, can you get me back my mom? And my mom had to come get me and we had to go home because I was miserable. I hated it there. So I went to church once, never went back, and I was always raised on the word God, but I never used it myself and I never was like forced to use it. I never grew up religious, like literally at all. But I also never grew up like anti-religious or like I never grew up as anything. I never was like put into some kind of faith or belief system or something like that, which I appreciate actually. I like that I got to explore my own beliefs and come up with my own ideas because my parents never pushed that on me, which is awesome. So yeah, anyway, geez, TikTok happened. I discovered tarot. I actually discovered witchcraft at the same time, what a witch is. And I remember like writing a 40-page document on everything I was learning and how much it resonated with me and how much this was giving me the answers to everything I felt but couldn't describe within myself. And I remember ordering a witchcraft supply box from this professional witch on Etsy in 2020. I still have the order receipt in my Etsy account, and she actually gifted me a tarot deck. And she was like, I don't know why, but I felt called to give you this tarot deck. Like, if it resonates with you, keep it. If not, just give it to someone else or do whatever you want with it. And that was the Crystal Visions Tarot by Jennifer Galasso. And that is my first ever tarot deck. And I use it every day since, basically every day since. And yeah, it was really cool. So I got into witchcraft and tarot at the same time. And it's interesting because the first lesson I have here on my notes, which my notes are to my right, so I'm going to be looking over here. The first lesson I have here is yes. I'm going to start with a bold statement. Spiritual awakening, it sounds magical. It sounds like it heals and fixes everything, but like it's messy and uncomfortable and it's not always Instagram worthy or TikTok worthy. It's well, TikTok is a little more relatable and messy and authentic, but it's not always just, it's never just an aesthetic, but it's not always pretty. It's not always finding the magic in everything and positive and uplifting. It can be dark and dark night of the soul and heavy and death and heavy shit. You know what I mean? And yeah, I want to go over four lessons that I kind of learned that I feel like are the biggest things I've learned throughout my journey, and I'll go into each of them deeper. And this is going to be channeled out of me once again. You all know how my episodes go. I have a rough structure over here, but it's all coming from me in spirit. Okay. But yeah, the first lesson I have here is awakening often comes with pain, but it's interesting because I can firmly say that my awakening started out of pure curiosity and kind of boredom and playfulness and joy and openness. I find it very common that with a spiritual awakening, you like, I have clients that come to me that are like, I had this huge awakening when my dad passed, or when this death in the family happened, or this horrible, devastating thing happened to me. And normally that's when people turn to faith. That's when they are not desperate for anything, but they turn to hope because that's all they have left. You know what I mean? And a lot of the times that's how awakenings happen, where it's like a giant shift in the way you think and move throughout life and what you believe and what you start to absorb. So yes, a lot of the time it can happen when a death happens in the family, or a lot of the time it can be like my awakening where it just happens randomly and you're like, wait, this is cool. I want to get into this. And then you do. And other times it can come from just you wake up one day. Like, I've heard stories of people who have a spiritual awakening, if you subscribe to that term. I had trouble with the word spiritual awakening after a while because there's a lot of spiritual psychosis associated with that, with those two words. Anyway, but I've heard stories where people are just like, I woke up one day and I was like, fuck this, I can't live my life like this anymore. And they found spirituality and that saved them and that turned them onto a better path, you know? So it's very personal. It's so fucking personal how you got into this. And the way you got into this is unique to every person. And it's like when you're awakening to self-awareness and all of this magical stuff and witchcraft and tarot and all these cool tools and life after death and all of this deep shit that questions life on earth, right? When you're getting into this, it's so unique and personal, but it can change every day, and I'll get into that, but it also is for a reason. Like, you got into all of this stuff for a reason, and I want you to pay attention to that reason because it's a part of your purpose. It's a part of your soul's contract, if you will, like why you came here and what you're meant to do here. And so yeah, for me, I didn't experience this like horrible thing happening to me, and then I turned to spirituality for healing and hope in that way. But I more so had the dark nights of the soul experiences. I'm always changing and growing and learning different things. Oh, well, of course we all are, but I'm like always like going through deaths and rebirths. So I was lucky enough and have to have the privilege enough to go through to start my spiritual awakening and start my spiritual journey in a very positive, vibrant place. I was 15 and I was getting into tarot and all of this stuff, and I was like so happy with my body and my personality and myself, and I was so confident. I manifested a boyfriend like that. I did a candle spell. I manifested money like that. I was fucking on top of it. And then as I got older, as I got deeper into my spirituality, that's when the healing came for me. So it was more down the line where the dark nights of the soul started to happen and all these deaths and rebirth cycles were happening. And so that's kind of how my journey went. But back to lesson one, it's true. A lot of the times, awakening comes through pain. Um, and it's not this like and that's where we have to be careful with like spiritual psychosis and all of that, is because when people say they have an awakening, sometimes they're implying and they truly believe that they know it all now, that they're 100% enlightened, they're 100% healed, they see the truth in everything now. That's where you have to be careful, is like just because you're spiritually awakening, just because you've been through this stuff doesn't mean that you're like on the same level as like God now, or like you are God or something, or you're better than everyone else. You have to stay humble because you're still a fucking human. This is still your first life being this human, right? I always have trouble with that saying of like it's their first time living too. It's your first time living. I personally don't believe that's necessarily true. I believe in reincarnation. Your soul is very wise, and it's up to us to tap into that wisdom, and that's actually a big part of the spiritual journey, which we'll get into. But um, it's not it's your first time living as a human you are in this life, if that makes sense. Like it's the first time as it's the first time I'm living as Mackenzie Foster, right? So it's not that you're better than everyone. You're still learning just like everyone else. Just like everyone else. So it's not like all of a sudden you're just enlightened, right? It's yeah, it's actually it's funny because if you, well, not funny, but ironic, because if you are awakening because of like a loss or heartbreak or like hitting rock bottom, clearly you don't know everything. Clearly, you know what I mean? Like you had this breakthrough, this awakening. Anyway, I'm sure you listening to this, you're not fucking in spiritual psychosis, so you understand that concept. But I just wanted to point that out because it is something to be aware of in this community, right? Um, but that's kind of like the goal. That's the goal of a spiritual awakening, though, is like learning shit we need to know that we did not know before. That is what it is like if you started this awakening because you're like, I can't go through this pain anymore, I can't go through this heartbreak anymore, I can't deal with this death in this way anymore. Like it's you, it's ultimately you deciding to live a different way and to live in a way that's more aligned with who you truly are. And we'll get into this more, but that's the thing a lot of people are missing about spirituality nowadays, is spirituality is not an aesthetic. It's not getting into the woo-woo stuff and just like being a witch and like all the titles and stuff. Like it's not surface level whatsoever. Whatsoever. Spirituality, and I will preach this till the day I die. Spirituality is a journey back home to yourself. It is deconditioning yourself completely, fully, and utterly raw. Like you are stripping down everything that you've gathered along the way that does not serve you anymore. Um, it brings us back to the essence of who we truly are. It's not us going outside of ourselves to find some answer or some better life. It's us going deeper into ourselves. We were never taught how to do that. We were taught through school and from our parents and with good intention, I'm sure, but we were taught to like go to authority figures and like go to the older people to like see what to do and like someone else tell us what to do. Oh, go to a preacher, go to a priest, go to God. He knows better than you. Like we're constantly told that a higher, quote unquote, higher power is more all knowing than us, but we are never taught that we are the higher power. We are the universe living a human experience. We are not just a human. We are not so stupid and like so ignorant and lost. Sometimes it can feel that way, but we have all of the knowledge we need and wisdom we need within our bodies, within our souls. Our bodies house a whole soul. You think that that soul who's lived probably hundreds of lives or whatever doesn't know like where like doesn't know what you need to know? Like where do you think we come from? We are created from source, from spirit, from the universe, from God, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's what's missing in spirituality nowadays is like it's a very disempowering stance in my opinion to like go outside of yourself for the answers and to like fix everything or to I don't know. Yeah, I think you know what I mean. Um but yeah, that's kind of what I think spirituality is. Like how did I even get on that topic? What the fuck? Um yeah, I think what I wanted to say. My whole point with that whole thing is if you started your awakening because of a great pain, because of a heartbreak, because of hitting rock bottom, that pain isn't the end. And it can feel like that. 100%. It can feel like that. But it's just the beginning. It is just the beginning of your growth. That pain that you felt before you decided to better yourself, I think we can all agree that if you felt that before, maybe you're here right now. Maybe you're in that phase right now listening to this. You are just at the beginning, just at the beginning. Um, so yeah, I want to kind of give you the outlook and perspective of being in pain and having those dark nights of the soul is necessary for growth, unfortunately. And that's not kind of diminishing or dismissing the the darkness that comes with an awakening. Um, yeah, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I want to touch on something too. Where lesson two, moving to lesson two, something I've found is that you will lose people along the way. And again, I don't want to say, I want to say most of the time because I know people who haven't lost people who are quote unquote awakened spiritually, but most of the time when you go down a unique, empowered path that is authentic to you, a lot of people who don't want that for you or who are jealous of that or who are triggered by that, they'll fall away. I remember getting into all this spiritual stuff and kind of waking up to the fact that I wasn't being treated fairly in a lot of relationships. And that's really hard because the friendships and relationships that, and maybe familial relationships that you formed in the past, now that you're this brand new person who has a whole new way of life that ultimately honors yourself, those relationships that you thought you would have forever can sometimes fall away. And that's really hard. That's probably the hardest of all of it. That's what hits me the most. Like I could cry thinking about the friendships I've lost and the relationships I've been in that have broken. And that's kind of the hard part of a spiritual awakening is all of a sudden you're so aware. And that's a blessing and a curse because obviously you want to awaken to the fact to what's best for you and what's not good for you. But it also sucks to have an awareness around awareness of your life that other people don't understand. Um, being aware, being spiritually aware, being woke, if you will, also means that you have to make tough decisions that benefit your growth and self improvement and development. And that doesn't always feel good because at the end of the day, we're human and as much as we are strong and capable of making decisions that empower us and help us grow spiritually and mentally and emotionally, physically, all the things, it doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean it's not going to hurt like a bitch. It doesn't mean that's not going to be dramatic sometimes and messy and like a little bit of a tower moment. But as the tower card teaches us, and why it's one of my favorite cards, and why I'm continuing to master the energy of drastic change and sudden upheaval, is that the tower card, if you look at the traditional tower card, you see this tower and it's cracking, it's breaking, it's crumbling from the bottom up. And that's because the foundation that it was built on wasn't solid in the first place. So that foundation needs to crumble in order for the tower to be rebuilt on something more solid, more grounded, more stable, and that's ultimately better for us. And that's the basis of a spiritual awakening in general is yes, you'll lose relationships and yes, you'll question probably fucking everything, but it all needs to happen because the way you were living before just isn't cutting it anymore. The way the what you were accepting and tolerating in your life clearly wasn't cutting it anymore. As you change, your relationships change, your life changes, and that's completely natural. Give me 1 sec. I'm going to turn off the AC unit. I always forget to do that. Fuck. Sorry, I'm back. Hi, we'll resume in a sec. But I just looked at my numerology thing and it's a 7 day. And the numerology of my day right now is the number seven. I have this, I'm gonna recommend an app to you guys. Maybe I'll send this in the Discord too. But it's called shit. What's it called? Fuck. Wait, what's it called? Ah, I think it's literally called tarot. Hold on. Do, 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 do. It's called Tarot and Numerology. Here, if you can see. Wait, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm just exposing all the apps I have on my phone right now. Hold on, it's focusing. Okay, you guys see this one? This one looks like this. Tarot and Numerology. It is so good. Whoops, gotta focus that back now. But it is such a good app. Oh my God. It shows you like the numerology of every day and every year and every month. I follow it fucking religiously. Anyway, it's a 7 day, which seven is the numerology meaning behind seven is spirituality. So of course I want to talk about like a spiritual awakening today because I'm feeling so spiritual. Um, is that focused? Yes. New moon in, oh my God, my phone's about to die. New moon in Aquarius 2025. January 29th. Okay, so in 2 days, the new moon in Aquarius is happening too, which Aquarius is such like a let your freak flag fly. So it makes sense why I want to go out there with big philosophical ideas today that go against societal norms because that is Aquarius to a T. Anyway, I just wanted to shout that out because I thought that was cool. But yes, I don't even remember what topic I was on. I mean, I do, but I don't remember the sentence I was in the middle of saying. So I'm going to continue this by saying anyone who falls away on your path is just not meant to walk this path with you. And that doesn't mean anything about them. And it doesn't mean anything about you. Because what we're not going to do is say, oh, well, their vibration isn't raised high enough. They're not enlightened like I am. They're not on the same wavelength. Sure, do some people lack self awareness? Yes. Is that frustrating? Yes. Do some people lack the quality, the ability to self reflect? Yes. Of course. That, or there's no denying that. But sometimes relationships just fall away because you guys aren't in alignment anymore. You're taking a different path. And that's what's happened. That well, it's not so much that spirituality, like literally following a spiritual practice was the fallout, the reason of like fallouts in my life with other people. Familial fallouts, yes, but that's only because a lot of family members for me were trying to push religion onto me after I told them to please stop. Like, oh, will you take this Bible course with me? Oh, Jesus is trying to save you. You're going into the darkness, Mackenzie. Let me help you. Oh, you're brainwashed. Let me help you. Like people pushing their religion onto me in a very, very scary way that a lot of the times made me question my reality. And I'm getting chills as I say this because it really triggers me still. Because I had a family member, an aunt of mine, text me not that long ago this long essay about how I'm in the darkness and my reality is not real because I haven't accepted Jesus Christ into my life. That language is dangerous. So that's why I'm making it a point to say that if you're spiritual, do not ever push your beliefs onto someone else or make them feel less than because they're not following what you follow. Fuck that. Fuck that. Because I don't like when people do that to me. So I'm not going to do that to them, right? Treat others the way you want to be treated. Golden rule, right? So a lot of relationships in my life have fallen away because of my beliefs, or not even because I don't even want to say it like that because it's not my fault that these people treated me this way. Um, but I mean, I'm on a spiritual path, and that's what I was met with. So it is what it is. It's not anyone's fault necessarily, but anyway, you see what I mean. A lot of people just will show that they are not for you anymore, and that's okay. And that's okay. And that's actually fucking normal on this journey. It is normal because when you're letting your freak flag fly, people who are not able to do that themselves will see you as a threat or as someone who needs saving or someone who needs help or someone that's wrong. And out of good intention or bad intention, doesn't matter. They'll try to push what they believe onto you. They'll try to fix you. They'll try to they'll even maybe try to treat you badly because that's how their human self responds to being triggered. You know what I mean? Like there's so many ways that this can play out, but all of it is unfortunately normal. Um, yeah. But yeah, I mean, when you're growing, you're also outgrowing relationships and not all the time. I mean, a lot of people can either grow with you or you'll outgrow them or maybe even they'll outgrow you, so it just is what it is. It is what it is, and it sucks because relationships are so important to me. And so I know how hard it is to deal with this part of it, part of a spiritual awakening. um but whether it's relationships or beliefs or environments that no longer align, it's all normal. It's all normal. Um, and my advice for you, I'm holding the camera lens cover. My advice for you, if you find yourself losing relationships on your spiritual awakening journey, um, I just want you to know that when you're losing something, you're not it feels like you're losing it, but when you lose something that's no longer serving you or that's no longer benefiting you or adding value to your life or making you feel good, it's not that you're losing something, it's that you're making room for stuff that does serve you. And that's what I've learned genuinely. This is not just like, oh, let me just like have a positive spin on it. Every time I've lost someone or a relationship has fell through, whether it's in a respectful way or a really messy, traumatic way, like either one, it's always been replaced by something that made it all make sense and that was better for me in the long run. And I see that now, and it still hurts. It still sucks, and I don't quite understand why this has to happen this way. Why we have to go through the depths of pain and hell to learn lessons like this. I'm still trying to figure that out myself. I don't know everything, but I do know that in a weird, fucked up way, it is sometimes worth it. And yeah, that's obviously situational, but that's what I've learned from like friendship breakups and stuff like that along the spiritual journey. And then the next lesson I want to really touch on is healing. Ooh, this is a big one, y'all. Healing is not linear. And I know we hear it all the time. Hopefully you do. Hopefully someone has said this to you. Healing is not linear. You'll think you're over something and then it'll show up again. And then this time you're actually stronger. And that's how the cycle goes. Like you get stronger and stronger and more resilient along the way, which sucks ass sometimes, but it's true. You get stronger and stronger and stronger. You feel this trigger, you heal it, you're aware of it, you heal it, you do better next time. That is a cycle that we are constantly going through. And yes, it's exhausting, but again, it is what it is, and it's all for a reason. I promise it's all for a reason. But that's the kind of wave that I've experienced along the way is when you're self-aware, you're learning a lot about yourself, obviously, but you're aware of what you need to quote unquote, well, I was gonna say fix, but that's fucked up. More heal and like handle better. Like for me, like external validation has been a huge thing. My anxiety has been a huge thing. Um, my trust in the universe, faith has been a huge thing for me. Like all these lessons that I struggle with personally that you may or may not struggle with too. Um, it's an ongoing lesson and learning process. We are not meant to be perfect. We're human. Excuse me, humans are not perfect. And neither is healing. Healing is the most messy thing that I've ever experienced in my life. I think it's the most messy thing that anyone experiences, that humans experience, is healing. The healing journey, I think it's the same thing as a spiritual journey, really, because spirituality to me is healing and coming back to your true self. So calling it a healing journey, I think, is valid too. But anyway, a healing journey is not linear. It's not supposed to be like, oh, I fixed this about myself and now I'm all good to go. Won't ever come up again. Like, no, we're human. We're not perfect. Like, it's not so black and white like that. That's not how it works. And as impatient and stubborn and determined I am, this was very hard for me to learn that sometimes I take time to learn a lesson and I take repeated lessons over and over again to heal something, right? Um, my two pieces of advice for you on the healing isn't linear lesson is focus on meeting repeating triggers and repeating lessons with grace instead of frustration. Like have your little moment of frustration, but then just be like, okay, what is this teaching me? And I don't want you to go too far with this because not everything is supposed to teach you something. I do believe that. Like not everything is just supposed to constantly make you better. And like it's easy to get stuck in that like constant self-improvement thing. But if you feel you need to work on this a little bit of like, why is this happening to me? Like getting really down and really hard on yourself about what you're going through, take a different approach. Be like, what is this teaching me? Like why does this keep showing up? Am I the problem? Are my decisions the problem? Are people around me the problem? Are my habits the problem? Like what is happening here? Like start taking a reflective, inquisitive, curious even approach to the lessons that you're going through, to the cycles that you're experiencing, the patterns and all that. um and also keep, and I kind of said this already, but keep in mind that every quote unquote old wound that you experience, every time, notice how you're approaching it now with more strength and resilience. That is the key, is you are learning how to, through the ups and downs, specifically the downs, you're learning how to be more resilient in like other shit that's going to come up because it never ends. Unfortunately, it never ends. The challenges, the struggles, the lessons, they don't end. They don't just, like, you don't manifest and heal your life to perfection. Life is always going to be lifing because that's what earth school is about. But these lessons that you are continuously going through, they are building resilience and strength for you to handle future lessons even better and even quicker and move through them quicker. And that's a really good feeling when you start to notice. This is what I was talking about with the small wins in the beginning. I mean, when you start to notice you are doing things differently than the old version of yourself did, that's when you know you're healing. And that's the goal here, is becoming a better person and feeling better throughout the journey and living a better life that you feel is better, not that anyone else feels is better, or not that the unrealistic expectations you put on yourself feels it's better. Like, not any of that, but stuff that, like, the shit you're doing now actually feels better for you. That is the goal, and feels more in alignment with who you truly are, right? And then the last lesson, which I kind of did touch on in the beginning, I couldn't help myself. But lesson 4, your true self was always there. Just because you are having a spiritual awakening, or you had a spiritual awakening, it is you awakening to the essence of who you truly are. It's not you becoming a brand new person or you losing your old self. It's, again, it's you deconditioning from all the shit that you were taught that no longer serves you anymore. It's you shedding the old icky layers that don't serve you anymore, that you don't need anymore, for you to try and, for what, for you to find the true essence of your soul, for you to find the true essence of you. That is the point of all of this. It's not about becoming someone new, it's about remembering who you've always been. Period. um I think I kind of did. I made an episode a long time ago about societal expectations. I recommend you listening to that. And external validation. Ooh, I've talked a lot about that on the podcast. So go listen to old episodes, because I swear to God, I touch on that like every fucking podcast, because it's a huge lesson for me. Um, but all of this, like shedding all of these things, is bringing us back to our authentic selves. And I want to leave you with this thought: your power was never lost. It's been waiting for you to rediscover it. It's always been there. It's always been there. And because of your spiritual awakening, because of what you're going through now, you are awakening to the power within you that, again, has always fucking been there. It's always been there. And that's the lesson you need to carry throughout your whole journey, is that you can tap into that power whenever you need it, because it's always there. It's you, it's a part of you. And that's why, with the ups and downs of a spiritual journey, when you're feeling like low, 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 or when you're feeling high, 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 both of them is not you losing or finding yourself again. It's all you. It's all a part of you. And what do comedians call it? A callback, when they reference something they mentioned earlier. This isn't funny. I'm not a comedian, but I'm doing a callback real quick. Like, if you know what I mean. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but in the beginning, when I was talking about my winter depression, it's like that. Like, this whole week, this whole last week and kind of week before that too, I've been like, oh, I just want to feel like myself again. And I'm like, this is me. Even when I'm fucking sad as shit, this is still me. I'm not lost. I never was lost. I never was asleep. I was me. I was me that whole time. So that's a food for thought, for you to kind of sit on. But yes, that's kind of what I want to touch on with the spiritual awakening, and what I feel is important if you're just getting into this space, or even if you've been in it. Sometimes we all need these reminders. I know I did. I need these reminders every fucking day. But to recap, pain leads to growth. Some people aren't meant to stay. Healing is a journey, it's not linear. And your true self has always been there. A spiritual awakening is not pretty, but it's worth every messy, painful moment, because it leads you home to yourself. I want you to share your thoughts and your personal stories by submitting a little message to me in my Google form for the podcast. I'll link that below. I want to hear from you. I'll feature you on the next episode, anonymous or not. But I want to hear your thoughts on this, or message me on Instagram if you want to be private, but or TikTok, or whatever. Email me even. Fuck it. Contact me. Something. um, Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your experience with all this. Where are you at in your spiritual journey? And if you want to dive deeper, I mentioned in the beginning that I have a course. It's called Spiritual Awakening 101, The Guide Within. The point of it is to give you the foundations and the very basics of a spiritual journey, of a spiritual practice, a spiritual awakening, to kind of kickstart that journey in a little more organized, less confusing, and way more supportive way. You get access to 8 modules that cover how to be your own spiritual mentor, so you stop So you don't need to constantly have your own mentor looking outside of yourself, how to find that wisdom within you. All the spiritual tools and practices and modalities that have helped me along my journey, like meditation and breath work and EFT and all of that stuff. It covers the basics of mediumship and your psychic abilities and intuition. It covers what a spiritual awakening is. Every single module, 8 modules, goes deep, deep, deep within my journey and what I've learned. So if you liked this episode and this really helped you, that course is going to be fucking mind blowing and completely transformational right now for you. It's called the Spiritual Awakening 101 course. I'll link it below. You get 8 modules, you get 2 1-hour long calls with me for one-on-one support when you need it, and you get access to my Discord community, of course, for ongoing support. And you even get like weekly homework within the modules, and all that. There's payment plans available. Check it out at least. And yeah, I hope this episode helped you. You'll hear all this in the outro, of course, but please rate and review the podcast. Reach out to me if you loved it. Follow me on all the socials. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I will see you next Tuesday. I just realized every time I say that, I'm spelling CUNT, which is not really the goal here. So I will see you in the next episode. Let's say that instead. Okay, bye. Love you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to rate and review Divine Gossip on whatever platform you listened in on. Head to themackenziecollective.com to work with me further. If you have any questions or have any topics you want me to cover or any guests you want me to have on, please email all of that to info@themackenziecollective.com or go to the episode description to fill out my Google form. I love you. Thank you for listening. See you in the next episode.